Yeah. Hey, Jess, good to see you again, and congratulations on your successes both in the weekend just gone with the Otago 10,000 metre championships, but also Challenge Wanaka and your successful qualification for the Challenge Championship. Now, we're going to focus on Challenge Wanaka for the debrief. That was your first ever half Ironman or mid-distance triathlon, as Challenge call it. We'll work through the process, but before we get into that, how did you find the race in general?
I found it really fun. Like I had no idea kind of what to expect because I've only done short distance triathlons, which are really like into the water, out of the water, on the bike, off the bike, running, sprinting. Like it's very on the go, where it felt like I had a little bit less pressure in the half Ironman, but I had to be a lot more tactical with it. And so it was more fun because I like longer distance stuff, and it was more the environment and the how pretty it was. So like sometimes I'd be biking and I'd just like look up and I'd be like, wow, it's so pretty. And then I'm like, oh, I've got a lot to go. But I really enjoyed it and it pushed me, but I definitely had more in me. So it's good. It's exciting for the future for it.
Absolutely, and Wanaka is one of the most scenic events around, so
Yeah.
can't fault that. Every time I race there, I just love my race photos. You will often see them used on my website. Not just myself, some of my other athletes as well. So obviously, Challenge Wanaka, it was last weekend on the 21st of February. It was a half Ironman distance, 1.9 kilometre swim, a 90-kilometre bike ride, and then a half marathon run. Going into it, we didn't have a goal time for you. It was more about the process and building that familiarity and experiencing the unknown. A half Ironman distance you hadn't done before. So we didn't have a goal time. But what was your splits and what was your finish time?
Um, oh, off the top of my head, I think I expected myself to be between the 5 and the 6, and I was literally in the middle. I think it was like 5:30 was my overall time. And I think my swim was about a 35. So that was like all right. I hadn't done much open water swimming. And then my transition was like 3 minutes because I couldn't put my hair up because my hands were so cold. So that slowed me down a little bit. So that's for future reference to have a different hairstyle. And then my bike, I think, what was the bike? Like 3.5? No, 3:20. I think it was 3:20 for the bike. And then minute and a half transition to the run, or 2.5 minutes, somewhere around that. And then I finished with a 1:35 half marathon. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And saving that strength of yours to the very end, which was good. And yeah, you made some significant gains there. So that was really
Yeah, it
great
was
to see.
fun.
And even you're flying on the bike as well. It is a challenging course with plenty of inclines. And you flew past me on the bike ride when you caught up to me, which was great to see. So we'll just rewind a little bit and look at your pre-race preparation. How did your training in the lead up to the event go?
Well, it was a bit of like a mix because it was after at the end of last year, coming off of all my half marathons, wanting a bit of a change. But I did have the cookie time job, which was quite full time, and so the training during that at the start was all good. I just kind of had to get up ridiculous times to train, but near the end of the 7 weeks of that job, it did start to impact it slightly. I think there was only a couple trainings that were missed, which I was a little bit upset about, but I knew that the recovery to balance was the best thing. And then after that, around Christmas and January, I wasn't working, so all of that training was full done, and I was pretty happy with all that. It was just about 2 weeks before the race I got quite sick, so I had to change a few things there, but that didn't seem to
Yeah.
damage much because I did look after myself properly. So I
So
was
we
pretty happy with the overall
if we
build.
put
But
it in a nutshell, you've been focusing on triathlon since the end of university, end of last year. And
yeah,
as you got closer to Christmas, your summer holiday work got more and more intense, which pushed your training to earlier and later in the day and minimized the sleep, really, didn't it? But you got the bulk of your training done even though
Yeah.
you had extra stress and less recovery.
Yeah.
Once that wound up at Christmas time, you were a lot more, you had a lot more time for recovery, and therefore you were able to fit in a bit more training and be consistent with that until you got crook.
Yeah.
Yeah. So overall, in the lead up to Christmas, your compliance with the training was pretty high. After
Yeah.
Christmas, it was exceptionally high, and then we had an early taper to start with. And you're young, you can adapt to slightly less recovery than people that are a little bit more older. You also got an extremely high aerobic base, which also meant that you could survive blocks of training with slightly less recovery as well and recover a little bit quicker. So that worked in your favor. It might not always. What aspects of the training did you find work well?
Well, I really enjoy like a balance when it comes to like keeping consistent. I like having the triathlon training schedule because it's always something different. And if it's like a double training, it's like at the pool and on the bike. So it gives me somewhere different to be and it breaks it up a bit more and it's a different focus and a different use of the body. So it's probably the balance of the crossing of the trainings that I really enjoy.
Yep. If you were in charge of your training, what would you do differently next time?
Ah. Honestly, nothing. I really enjoyed the splits of everything and how it went and the build of it all. Usually, if I did my own training, I'd just do too much because I enjoy it too much.
Yes, yes, I've noticed that. Um, if I was doing things differently next time, and there will be a next time, I hope, in terms of
Yeah,
we've already discussed some future goals, I would be looking to build a bit more focus on your cycling to bring that through as a bit more of a strength. You're a reasonable cyclist, but compared to the swimming and cycling, the swimming and the running of the other girls, your running is a massive strength. Your swimming is a strong strength, and your cycling lacks compared to the other girls in your category.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess that is something I agree with, but yeah, I guess I expected it with being the one of the three disciplines that I picked up rather than one that I've had for quite a while.
Yeah.
But definitely that, yeah.
And just for people watching this on YouTube later, Jess came to triathlon from a strong swimming background, fell in love with running, and now dabbles in triathlon as a runner. Is probably a fair way of describing you.
Yeah.
Nice. How was your nutrition and hydration in the days leading up to the race?
It was, I tried to focus on it as much as I can, but moving down into my flat down in Dunedin, it was a little bit mucked up. So there was a little bit more um, messing with it, I guess. But I was kind of trying to lower the fiber and increase the carb intake to try make sure it's full and I've got lots of glycogen, and then also just making sure I'm eating in regular intervals so I'm not like stressing myself out and just making sure enough in me. But yeah, carb focus was kind of, which I don't mind.
Nice. How about your sleep and the stress leading up to race day? I know, and you don't need to go into details, I know them, but you had some life stresses with moving to a new flat and getting set up for the university start of the year in race week, which is never optimal, but it's something that was unavoidable.
Yeah, it was probably it's not ideal to move in on the week, but because of the environment that it is down here, it was probably the best overall because then I probably would have got less sleep being with all the partying down here, and also the interruptions of training if that was a possibility. But my sleep was actually pretty good considering the stress levels. Like I still made sure to get around 9 hours, and that's usually my minimum. Sometimes it can be 8 hours, but 9 hours is usually my what I like to get or more. But I would say I was getting enough sleep and trying to calm my stress levels as much as possible. There was probably just 2 days of like quite stressed, but then I backed it off as soon as I started traveling to Wanaka. So that was
That's
good.
good. And I think you made some sound decisions and managed the situation that you had by just saying, well, let's just get this done. And
Yeah.
this person has done this that's frustrating for me, but let's just get it done and help them out. So
Yeah,
some
move forward.
nice work there. Now, moving into the race strategy, talk me through, and I already know some of the answers of this because I helped you frame it, but what was your race strategy? What was your race plan around pacing and nutrition?
Well, because it was such like a new event, it was kind of like I didn't really know what to expect, but I knew that it was a longer event, so it's definitely not going to be just like my half marathon where it's just like quite you just have to push the whole time. But in the swim, I pretty much just wanted to feel comfortable and strong at the same time, but and trying not to get hypothermic was probably my one goal, and that didn't happen, so that was a positive. But yeah, trying to just keep strong, trying to keep straight so I didn't go extra distance. But yeah, just kind of trying to keep comfortable in the swim, which I did. So I was happy with that. The bike, I wanted to hold back a bit, like I
Just
wanted to
before we
hold
jump
back
on the
at the
bike, I
start.
might share your training peaks and jump into the swim and just have
Yeah,
a good look at that. So swim
it'll
session
probably look
is
all
there.
crooked.
Sorry.
It'll probably look all crooked when we look at it.
Well,
It was a
there's
bit mucked up on the timing.
the GPS side of it. You do get these squiggles, but you can pretty much see you follow pretty much straight down. Now, with my category, most of the traces, people typically swam parallel to the shore for a little bit before started bending out. So a lot of
Um,
people have a big arcing curve to this first turn buoy, whereas yours
yeah,
is pretty much, there's a couple of wiggles in there. And I think it looks like here you might have been sighting off this buoy rather than that one, but that is looking pretty sharp compared to a lot of the other ones I've looked at. Straight line over there. And once again, people tend to drift in towards the shore as opposed to the buoy. The straight line would have cut this out a little bit. It's hard to say with the distance, with it still tracking as you made your way into transition area. And you can see, I know you didn't run back across the road because that was all fully fenced off. So there's
yeah,
some GPS tracking issues in there slightly, but that overall is looking pretty sharp and pretty straight. So great work with that.
yeah. I think on the long straight back, I was a little bit nervous because I was kind of by that point we all kind of were separated by ourselves and I couldn't fully see the boy at the end and I was just hoping I was going in the right direction. There was one point someone shoved me out the way. They like crossed me and grabbed me and shoved me and I was like, nice. So that was an experience, but it is what it is when it comes to open water swimming, I guess.
Yep. Now, I did talk about this with a few people, but I don't think I mentioned it specifically to you. But for next year, the great thing about this leg straight back in, it lines up with the right-hand edge of Mount Ion, which is that big
Mhm.
mountain as you come into Wanaka. So as that swim back, and the sun's setting over, sun's rising just to the right of it as well. So you can literally swim straight towards the sun, or you've got the big silhouette of Mount Iron if you swim towards the right hand edge of that. That's a great way of lining just straight up with the turn into the finishing chute. So I'll um, I'll try and remember to discuss that a little bit more with you next year. But hopefully you can get
Yes,
there a
yeah.
couple of days out rather than the evening of the
Yes,
race. So
yeah,
we get a bit more time. So yeah, great work with that swim.
yeah.
Moving on
Um,
to your race plan for the ride.
yes. So I guess with like the I'll do nutrition after, but for the ride, it was yeah, trying to go out not too hard because I know that I'm used to just going out hard and things. So I was like, I'll just pull it back a bit. Don't get stressed if someone overtakes me, because it's 90K. So it's like I might see them in the end, or I might not if that because cycling might be their strong leg. I'll get them back in the run. But yeah, it was pretty much just trying to spin it as much as I can, not pushing the hills too much, even though that seemed to be where I went past people. I got past on the downhill, but that was just me. And it was like getting confidence because I haven't actually done that much out on the roads, like as I probably should have. But yeah, trying to stay strong, but not push it too much. And then on the second lap, I think I realized that I probably could have gone a bit harder. So I pushed it a little bit, but knew I couldn't push too much because then I had the half marathon to come. So there was definitely a bit more I could have given in the bike ride, but I just kind of tried to make sure to set myself up as well as I could for the half marathon at that point.
Yeah, for any half Ironman or full Ironman distance race, I always encourage athletes to make sure they finish the bike ride knowing they could have ridden a lot faster.
Yeah.
That means you've got plenty of energy left in the legs for the run. Now, if I just share your bike ride, you can see that clearly in terms of the time you spent at level three in your tempo heart rate zone was the vast majority of it. You had a really conservative ride, which is great,
Yeah.
and only 4% of the time was up near threshold. So that's basically absolutely perfect for what we
Yeah.
discussed pre-race.
Yeah, I was definitely looking at my heart rate a lot when I was riding. And if it went too high, I was like, oh, I need to back it off a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
great. And now on to the race plan for your happy place out on the run.
I was so excited to get off that bike. I was like, yes, I get to run because there was a couple of people that took over me at the end, and I was like, I'm just gonna chill and I'm just gonna do whatever. So yeah, I got off the bike, put my shoes on, made sure to put them on properly. I had all these people running past me and it was stressing me out, but I was like, I just gotta put my shoes on properly. And then yeah, I just kind of went off, started running, and I was happy again. And it was kind of quite fun. It was kind of like a game picking people off and instantly seeing people and having that pace. I guess it's a little bit different to what I'm used to with half marathons, where I can like find a group of people in my own pace. But there was none of that. It was pretty much just a solo run. And it was quite nice being in the gravel, very scenic, but much just wanted to get my heart rate down at the start. I have quite a high heart rate when I'm running. So it was more just how I felt, trying to get comfortable heart rate. And then just holding that pace pretty much for like three-quarters of it. And then I started to feel it a bit and I was kind of just gave it whatever I had at that point. So yeah.
Awesome. So, in terms of, we've sort of touched on it a little bit. The next question I've got down here is how well did you stick to the plan
For just the run,
for the whole race?
for the whole race. I feel like I stuck to it pretty well. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you looked at my heart rates in the run, you'd probably say I was a bit off. But I think like comfort wise, I think I stuck to trying to just have fun and finish it strong. Well, I don't
No,
know.
you absolutely stuck to the race plan. You raced with maturity, and we saw that in the bike in terms of how consistent you stayed in the tempo or the level three heart rate zone. And as we discussed before the race, if it's getting up into threshold, you just need to sit up and relax for a little bit and bring that back down. And that's clearly evident in the stats. As with the running, let's have a look at those now. You mentioned the heart rate zones, and we'd sort of discussed using that as your time to push, particularly towards the end of the race. And you can see you absolutely went out the T2 absolutely flying and managed to run the vast proportion of it. It's literally right on the cusp between tempo and threshold being 178. And you look at this, it's all 176, 178, 180. You're right there the whole way. So perfectly um, executed race plan from the absolute start with the chill swim and keeping that consistent, holding everything back on the bike, and having the ability to unleash on the run and absolutely dominate that. In terms of if we're looking at your pace zones compared to normal, for a half marathon, I'd expect a higher proportion of time in zone five and zone six. But because of the fatigue and everything leading up to this, the bulk of the time being in your level three or the zone four high aerobic here, um, that's exactly where we wanted you to be. So it's perfect.
Yeah, I think I guess I always expect myself to be a bit faster because running is my strength, but seeing how I was against other people, that like made me feel a bit better. And also the course wasn't 100% flat, so I knew it was more about effort than pace as well.
Yeah, and doing a 135, which is what, 11, 12 minutes. I'll say slower, although that's really a not
Yeah,
it's not as fast as what you would do in a totally fresh half marathon, by that
yeah,
sort of 11 to 12 minutes. That's normal. Sort of at a little bit
yeah.
longer is about right. So that's, yeah, you had a fantastic run. Did you have any unexpected challenges out there on the course, and how did you handle them?
Um, I haven't really said much about it, but I when it because biking is my the newest thing I've done. There's like a bit of confidence issues, and so when it comes to like doing like hairpin turns, sometimes I overthink it and like miss them. And in the first corner out by Triple Cone, I actually went into the bush, and
Okay.
I rode off into the bush, and they were like, "Oh no!" And I was like, "Oh my god, my tire's gonna pop." And then I realized because it's my new bike, I don't have my like the kit under the seat. That was one thing I forgot, and I was like, "Oh god, I'm not gonna be able to fix this pop tire." And then I just kind of kept riding, and I rode up off that hill, like up a little ledge, and then kept riding, and I was fine. So that was okay, but I was a little bit stressed that my tire was going to pop or something, and I did not know what to do. But I just kind of kept going. Um, then,
That's all right. Look, what we can do is we can practice some of those U-turns, and it might be a case of finding a suitable road cone on the street, putting it in the center of the road on a quiet patch, and going around it and biking away
yeah,
from it half a dozen times, a couple of times a week. And you might laugh and chuckle at that. But if it's an area where we can, you may have lost 30 seconds there. If it's 30
yeah,
seconds and there's four or five hairpin turns during the event, that, and admittedly that didn't happen on each time you went around those turns, but worst case scenario, that's 2.5 minutes that we could potentially gain for just a little bit of practice. I remember back in the early 2000s, I coached an athlete called Daniel Clout, and the world championship course for duathlon that he was going to, the run was in a star shape. So each lap had multiple um,
oh my,
U-turns. And so we practiced, we set up courses based around that concept so he get plenty of practice of going around U-turns. So it's an important thing to practice. And if it's an area of lack of confidence, we incorporate that into the training to make it an area of confidence. So, and it didn't turn into too much of a an issue in terms of the puncture because it didn't eventuate. But obviously, there's a risk, and knowing the terrain, when you if you ended up in those bushes, there's some pretty chunky rocks that you rode over as well. So,
yeah, good bike tires, I guess.
yeah.
Um,
So,
yeah. Other than that, it was all good. It was just getting confidence on the bike on the downhills and getting used to the speed that you get up to.
yeah.
Definitely
And
use them to more advantage.
the advantage of living in Dunedin, you've got plenty of hills that you can include in your long ride to build up
Yeah,
that confidence with that. And I can't remember if I said it to you. I definitely said it to someone on race day. I've got the fat old man advantage on the downhills, which is my disadvantage on the uphills. And you would have noticed you came flying past me on the uphill, along with a number of other petite athletes, both male and female, that don't need to lug up a whole lot of extra weight. So I had the advantage on the downhill, but practicing the skills of the downhill, yes, gravity assisted my weight a little bit, but having the skills, the descending skills, gave me more confidence, more speed, more capability. It wasn't just the extra weight that I'm carrying. So, yeah, building those skills and confidence in the hills in Dunedin will be great for you. All right. So moving on, a bit about your physical performance. How did your body feel during the race? What were your energy levels like? Um, Muscle fatigue? Did you have any cramp, etc.?
Um, Not really. I mean, at the start of the swim, I obviously had like the cold shock, and so that was just trying to get my breathing under control to like not hyperventilate. So that was fine. But then my body felt pretty good in the swim. It was just cold, so it was just trying to keep it moving. In the bike ride, I felt pretty good. It was just every time I felt like a little bit depleted, that's when I would have like more nutrition or have a bit of a drink to make sure I'm topping up those energy levels. And so that worked. And I actually hit all more, I had more nutrition than I thought I would be able to stomach. And so that was a positive. So I came out of the bike feeling pretty energized and fresh. And then I started the run. And at that point, I thought, oh, I might be a bit worried about how much nutrition I can take in after eating so many gels on a bike. Um, but I felt pretty strong as well. I think, yeah, my legs were obviously a bit jelly coming off the bike, but that's normal. And I've done a bit of practice running off the bike, so I can be a bit used to it. But I didn't have any pains or anything, and it was pretty much just having a gel whenever I felt low in energy, and that kept my energy pretty high. It was only near the end of the run where I just had normal fatigue from the amount of time I'd been out because it's the longest race I've done. So my body was kind of like, oh, this is a long time.
Yeah,
But yeah, pretty good actually with it all.
nice. And the next question is really two parts. So I'm going to start with the second part because I know the answer to the first part. So when we get to that, we'll dial that in as precise as we can. But what felt the toughest out there?
Hmm, probably that's a hard question. Probably the second half of the run, just kind of, yeah.
Yep. What made that tough?
I think it was just knowing that I had to go into a pain cave now and that I had to push a bit harder. But I guess knowing that the finish is near kind of makes up for it. Like, I wouldn't really say any of it was the worst. They all had bads and goods, but none of it really. It all went pretty well. I was actually pretty happy with it.
Yep. Okay. So back to the first part of the question. What part of the race felt the strongest?
Mm, probably, probably the second half of the bike ride and the first half of the run, like that kind of combination. Um, the first part of the run, I kind of felt like I was flying. It's quite fun.
Yep.
And the second half of the bike, I knew that I had extra energy and it must have kicked in. So I knew to move that into the run. So that's probably where that energy came from.
Nice. How was your nutrition and hydration strategy? Was it effective?
Yeah, I obviously use Goo because they partially sponsor me, so I can get discounted products. Um, and I have been like I use them in my training, so I know I can stomach them well because I can have issues with stomach problems with a lot of food, so that's why I was a bit nervous, but it all went well. I kind of wanted to plan to drink around 3 bottles of electrolytes on the bike. I think I got 2.5 down, so I was pretty happy with that. And it's quite fun throwing the water bottle out and grabbing the new one. That was a new experience for me. And I got a new water bottle that I like. So that was a positive. Free challenge Wanaka bottle, but I had to give away my brand new bottle, but it's okay. Um, and then I think I broke it down to like 80 grams of carbs per hour if I put it all down. And so, yeah, I got 2.5 bottles down. And then I had like 8 gels on the bike and like maybe like 4 on the run, I think.
Yep.
And so it was more than I thought, but I had them and I was like, well, if I can stomach them, I'll have them. So yeah,
Nice.
that was all pretty positive. But yeah, about 80 grams per hour, which I think is within the 60 to 90 that some people go for. So
Yeah, nice. Looking at your mental performance, how did you manage your mindset and focus during the race?
I think it was majorly like going into the race, I just really wanted to have fun because it's a new event for me. I didn't want to have any pressure. So I took it was probably a good thing it was Wanaka with having the course not being fast and flat, because then I couldn't really break down what I'd think I could get. And so I had a very rough estimate. And so it was very much just going with feel and just wanting to have fun. And that's really what I had. And I think that kept my positive attitude the whole way. And the fact that I'd be biking, I'd look at the views and I'd be like, wow. And they'd be like, oh, I need to keep racing. And in the run, it was just fun picking people off. So it was kind of just keeping the vibes high and having as much fun as I can and seeing how my body responds to a new event, really. Yeah.
Nice. Were there any negative thoughts? And if so, how did you overcome them?
The main negative thoughts was more like not being able to finish strong or like feeling like something is like going wrong or be like, oh, I still have this far to go and I still have a half marathon to run. But then I kind of just remember that I choose to do this and I really enjoy it. So there isn't really a point to be negative. It's just because it's long and I'm like, oh, but then I'm like, oh, wait, this is really fun. And so, yeah, it's just kind of trying to keep happy with it and being like, actually, I want to be here. And then I'd be like, yay, I'm here.
Nice.
So, yeah,
That's a good way to reframe things. So, well
yeah,
done with that.
yeah.
What kept you motivated during the tough moments?
Um, I always write on my arms. I put little quotes. I've been doing it for like maybe the past 5 events that I've done now. And so I had different little motivational quotes or like little things that mean a lot to me. So if I ever have like a rough moment, I can look down and it kind of just makes me rethink the perspective and it makes me think of like my goals and how far I've come with like the commitment and everything. So that's something that really keeps me going. And then just honestly doing sport makes me happy. So most of the time I'm pretty happy. And then when it comes to the run taking over people, I was like, yeah, that really hyped me up. So that kept me going.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, reflecting back on the race now, what went well overall?
My attitude, the fueling, and the consistency throughout the race, I think, all were like the main three things, which are key parts of the race. Um, but yeah, I think the main thing I was happy was being able to finish with a smile, which is in my finished photo. I'm still smiling, and having fun. Like that was kind of,
I was going
yeah,
to point that out right at the end of this, wrapping things up. Every time I saw you on course, you had this big beaming smile. You were the
I was,
happiest person out on that course, whether I saw you on the bike or the run. I obviously, for obvious reasons, I didn't see you on the swim because we started in totally different waves.
yeah,
But yeah, you never stopped smiling, and that was really awesome to see.
yeah. I think just taking that step back from being super, super competitive and not knowing what I'm doing and knowing how much training I've done, I was just like so happy to be there and just to do it. So yeah.
Awesome. And what would you change or improve for your next race?
I'd probably get some more practice in open water swimming, and in a wetsuit. It wasn't bad, it was fine. It was just it'd be nice to get more practice with just getting used to the longer distances of swimming without tumble turns because I'm so used to the competitive swimming tumble turns and everything. So that's kind of like a mental difference. Probably transitions would be one key point that I'd want to get a bit more sorted, and then knowing how far like where my line is to push on the bike to make sure I have a good run, but am getting the most out of it. So they're probably the main
Nice.
aspects.
You were very close to that line for the bike as well. So you
Yeah,
did that really well. I think the only thing we could possibly look to do there is if you had some power pedals or a way of measuring power, so we could utilize
yeah,
the knowledge you have from your sessions on the trainer and incorporate that on the road, so we can be a bit more precise with that, particularly on the uphills where there's going to be some heart rate lag that you're pushing without having that delay in that data coming through in terms of the heart rate. So,
Yeah, yeah, that's something I definitely will put on my to buy list.
What did you learn about yourself as an athlete?
I think I learned how much I enjoy the sport. I mean, I already knew how much I loved the sport, but it just shows more, and then it shows me how far that I can push myself and like what just consistency can like achieve. Um, what else? Just yeah, how much fun I have doing such an amazing sport, surrounded by such amazing people. I think that's what I really found moving from such small competitive track events to bigger, like more wholesome events is just seeing everyone just completing them and doing it for themselves. And it's like just makes me really happy. So yeah.
Nice. Now, looking forward now, we've discussed some goals, and we'll discuss a little bit more detail offline once we've finished recording this. But what are your goals for your next race?
Next triathlon race or next race in
The
general?
next race, next major event, shall we say? So
Yeah,
Christchurch half.
Christchurch. Yeah, I've entered that one. So that one is the national champs, but I guess I have a bit of like unknown going into it coming out of this. I don't know how much like the behind fatigue my body will take to get fully over the event. But I think just trying to be competitive rather than having like a PB in mind, trying to get as close to my PB as possible would probably be amazing. I mean, if I could PB, it's amazing, but I think it's just seeing how my fitness from half Ironman can move into a bit more speed in the running alone again. And so that's probably my focus, just seeing how it goes and
Yeah.
being competitive,
And
I guess.
managing that fatigue post half Ironman is going to be key. And you had an exposure to that with the 10,000 meter championships in the weekend. Your
Yeah.
mind might be willing, but the body certainly hasn't recovered yet, and we can't expect that. But you had a fantastic result nonetheless.
Yeah.
Um, what key areas will you focus on improving as you move towards Christchurch Half Marathon?
Probably just picking back up on my speed. Obviously, it's a bit of a mental change again from more of the long consistency to more of a pushing a bit harder earlier in the half marathon. Um, and yeah, it's when it comes to half marathon, it's usually a bit more mental and believing in myself. So it's just getting a bit more speed behind me and believing that I can push myself again. So
Nice. And what is one thing you'll do differently next time? So next time, thinking ahead to Challenge Wanaka next year or your next half Ironman distance event.
um, definitely just more practice out in them, more exposure rather than a bit more indoors to get used to that. And then probably more training at that threshold level to get used to it. And then maybe a bit more brick sessions just to get used to the strong run off the bike. And then usually when it comes to the running sessions is trying to nail those long runs with the progressiveness. I just really mentally struggle with those. So probably that is another
Yeah,
one, but that's probably just in general. So
just finish writing these notes here.
yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, you had a fantastic race, Jess. As I said, you executed that race plan to perfection. That precision with the bike, particularly the staying conservative, sitting back, holding yourself back, ready to unleash on the run, and then unleashing. You executed that right to the precision with the heart rate. And we talked about building that pace as you got closer and closer to the finish line. So you did that exceptionally well. You raced with a level of maturity that most young people don't have. In fact, some of my other athletes, and they'll probably watch this and know either I'm talking exactly about them, or they'll have an inkling as to who I'm talking about. So congratulations, not just on qualifying, but more so on how you raced your very first half Ironman. your approach to the event, the fact that you consistently smiled throughout the event, and that high five when I was going out on my second lap as you were coming into the finish line. Yeah, with the way the course was structured, and there's not much overlap between the athletes, I was quite pleased that I managed to see you coming in. Even though your support crew lied when I went out and started my run, they were like, "Oh, Jess is just ahead of you." I'm like, "No, she's not. There's no way she's close." So hey, well done with that, and thanks for allowing me to film this debrief for the YouTube channel. We'll stay on the line. There's a few other things we'll discuss outside of what we'll put in the video. So thank you again,
Yeah.
and congratulations on qualifying, and also on your success at the Otago 10,000 meter championships in the weekend just gone as well.
Thank you.